What's up everybody? Pretty much got the Monsterservice Stage 2 wide body kit mounted onto Turbo Taxi. As you probably saw, I have a couple rivets in each of the flares, sections of the flares to hold it to the body of the car. Obviously I didn't full mount it because I've got to take it back off to have it painted, but I wanted to get the Cleco pins out of there, or the temporary rivets out of there. A, so I can kind of test the fitment of the wheels and everything and go drive it without the Cleco pins in there. And B, so it doesn't look like Hellraiser anymore. Those things are super handy to have for doing stuff like this. Use them for fabrication work, putting pieces of sheet metal together, tack welding, things like that, mounting body panels, all kinds of stuff like this. I was turned on to those by my buddy Mark D over at Build Rad Stuff. He uses the hell out of those things for mounting up, body panel fitment and all kinds of stuff before he does final welding. I also saw them being used on a lot of other automotive shows that I've watched on television and on YouTube, but especially Speed Academy. I saw them using the Cleco pins to test fit and mount the fender flares. I believe it was on the one of the IS300 project videos. May have been that or the Rocket Bunny FRS, I can't remember off the top of my head. Those guys are awesome. If you haven't checked out Speed Academy, please do. I'm sure you guys who are watching my stuff probably know who Speed Academy is, but they are fantastic, so check them out. Really good stuff. I was able to pick up a set of these replica TRD side skirts locally. I got a fantastic deal on them. One of the reasons I wanted to go specifically with a replica for this part and not with a real one is as far as I know, I haven't done a ton of research, but from what I've heard, the real TRD side skirts for these cars are pretty hard to find. There's probably not a whole lot of them out there. They stopped making them years ago, as far as I know, when they stopped making this body style of Altezza or IS300. And also I have to cut them and modify them to get them to fit up to the Monsterservice flares, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a really nice set of TRD, real TRD side skirts, and then proceed to modify them. So I felt a lot more comfortable, especially since I'm not a paint and body guy. I'm doing all this myself and learning as I go. I wanted to make sure that I could get something that was cheap, that I didn't feel too bad about modifying, and if something did happen to them, oh well, I can scrap them and try something else. That's why we went with the replica TRD side skirts. I've got the passenger side skirt cut and ready to install to fit up to the Monsterservice wide body. I do not have the driver's side one done and modified, and so I'm gonna go ahead and do that next. I went ahead and set the ride height. One little trick that I do, I don't know if this will help you guys. As you probably saw, I was using a set of digital calipers. Digital caliper is a super handy thing to have. It's for precise measuring of things. I'm really anal about stuff, and I'm really kind of OCD, attention to detail on certain things, and ride height is something that has always been something that I've really honed in on, especially with the IS300 having a little bit of a funky ride height from the get-go. These things all have a tendency to lean to the left slightly, and they also have a little bit of a front rake, which the front rake doesn't bother me that much. It's kind of how the car was engineered. The leaning, it really bothers me, and obviously I'm kind of a big dude. With me in the car, it obviously leans more than it would without me in the car, so I like to make sure I get the ride height dialed in and kind of set up to either compensate for that lean and passengers in the car and things like that, but also make sure that it's an ideal ride height that's functional for the street. It's not going to have any clearance issues and damage the new flares, or be so low I can't drive the damn thing over speed bumps or whatever. Most of you guys probably noticed I'm more about function versus looks necessarily. Obviously I want things to look good, but my builds in the past and even this build are not solely about looks. I want the car to look good and have a unique presence to it, but I also want it to be functional, drivable, have power, all those sorts of things, and driving a car that's a half a millimeter off the ground and 12 degrees of camber isn't super functional for a street car. I think it looks cool on certain cars, but it's not very functional. It's not easy to drive. I commend those that attempt to daily drive a car that's set up like that, or even have one that's a show car that they drive occasionally. It is an absolute pain in the ass. I had this car set up sort of stanced out a few years ago, and I wasn't even as low as a lot of guys go with these cars, and I could barely drive the thing. And I'm in Arizona where the roads are pretty smooth. I can't imagine having a car like that somewhere where the roads aren't all that great. So, but just getting over speed bumps and just the daily drivability of something, if I wanted to daily drive the car, obviously I don't, but if I did, and just driving parking lots, speed bumps, driveway dips, things like that, I want to make sure the car is functional, and I like more of that kind of race functional look. So that's my rant about setting up ride height. What I started to say was using a set of digital calipers is really nice because you can take the back side of the calipers, So this is a set of digital calipers. These are super handy to have. As you can see, it's got a little LCD screen on it. Let me turn it on so you guys can check it out. This one that I have measures in millimeters and in inches, and you can zero it out here, and you can change the measurements here from inches to millimeters as you increase the gap of something or increase your measurement. Obviously it goes up digitally on the screen. I like to use these on the collars of my coilovers. So the lower locking collar against the tube or the body of the coilover where the threads are where you make your ride height adjustment. I like to set this on that lower collar with everything tight, and I run this up to the bottom locking collar for the spring assembly and measure the gap that I have in between that, and then I compare that to the opposite side. So anytime I make ride height adjustments, I always measure out up to that point, and then I actually zero the gauge out, and then depending on how much I want to raise or lower the car, I will move this once it's been zeroed, positive or negative, you know, a half inch or a quarter inch or whatever that may be, and then lock it down, and then it's exactly where I had it set on one side versus the other, and then I can make my adjustments and then go to the other side and make the exact same adjustment. Granted, this technique doesn't work on every single car. It doesn't work in every single situation. It is more of a dialed in starting point for ride height. You may have to make slight adjustments to the ride height left or right to balance the car out if it has a natural lean or anything like that, or if you're trying to compensate for weight or something like that. But this is a really good starting point. These things also come in handy for a lot of other things. I use them. You may have noticed me using these when I was mocking up the flares, getting distances of holes and things like that set up correctly. That way I know that things are matched from left to right. Again, that's me being super OCD about mounting things and having stuff look good. So I probably go a little bit overboard with using measuring equipment, but I don't think that that's really such a thing. I think anytime that you know, the old adage, measure twice, cut once, you want to make sure that you're 100% precise on your measurements before you drill a hole or cut something, because in some cases you can't put back what you cut off without welding or anything like that, and if you don't have access to that kind of stuff, making sure that you measure is key. That comes in very handy, and it makes a lot of sense to do up front versus kicking yourself for not doing it later. So that's my tip of the day, I guess, or tip for this video is attention to detail. Measure. These things are cheap. You can pick these up at Harbor Freight or most any hardware store for next to nothing. I think the most expensive ones that I've ever seen, at least, I'm sure there's super expensive, you know, engineering grade, super precise ones out there, but for what most of us are doing in the garage, these are great. I think you can get these things for like probably not even 15 or 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for this. I don't remember if I got these at Harbor Freight or not, but hell, you could probably even get these at Walmart. I'm not sure, but super handy to have. So that's my tip. Attention to detail, measure twice, cut or drill once is kind of my adage. So cool. We're going to go ahead and finish up the side skirts, and then we will make those adjustments to the rear coilovers, and then we'll put the wheels and tires back on it, drop it down, and see how things look. hope I went into enough detail on all the videos for you guys as far as the measurements of things and showing you guys some close-ups of the fitment with my wheel and tire specs and the Monsterservice fenders and how everything fits. I still have some messing around to do with the ride height. It's not exactly where I want it. I think the front is pretty close. I'm gonna have to bring up the rear a little bit on that little test drive that I just did. Just going down to the end of my cul-de-sac, turning around and coming back, there's a little water drainage dip, and then turning in the cul-de-sac where I already had some rubbing in the rear. So we'll have to mess around a bit more with the ride height. I think it's pretty close. I'm super stoked with how everything's turning out. Can't say enough great things about Monsterservice. The quality of the product for the money, like I've already mentioned several times. The customer service, like I've already mentioned several times. It's been really good. I don't have a ton of experience with a lot of aftermarket body components, but I would say these are probably one of, for the money, the better fitting body pieces that I've ever seen and put hands on and mess with. So I don't know what else to say. They're awesome. If you guys have any additional questions, anything I didn't cover that hopefully I can answer for you, go ahead and drop a comment. As usual, I always try to get back to you guys and respond to the comments as quickly as possible. Obviously, subscribe and like the video. Keep watching the channel for additional upcoming videos we're gonna have. Once we get all the body pieces for this guy back from paint, we are going to do a final install video. Hopefully before everything gets sent off to paint, I'll have some more time to mess around with the ride height, getting everything exactly where I set it. That way when the pieces come back from paint, it'll just be a final install and go for a drive. So I'm really excited, really looking forward to that. Appreciate those of you out there that have subscribed to the channel and liked the videos and continued to watch and left great comments and given me a lot of great feedback. If you guys are watching these videos, I would really appreciate you subscribing. Hopefully all you guys out there that are watching these are automotive enthusiasts like me. My goal with all of this is that I can maybe inspire, some other guys out there to take the leap and do some things that maybe they've been wanting to do but didn't think they could do themselves. Anybody's capable of doing this stuff if it's what you want to do. You just got to do your research, whether that's doing a Google search, going on forums for whatever type of car you own and drive, looking at part manufacturers, all those different types of things, doing all the research you can. Obviously, I've already mentioned, measuring and things like that are really important when it comes to this type of stuff. I don't know how many builds I've seen where guys just slap stuff together and yeah, it looks good, but you get up close to it and it really doesn't look all that great. Everybody has a different style, everybody has a different level of functional expertise and how they apply that and what they do to the car, and everybody has a different level of attention to detail, and that's really what makes our culture of automotive enthusiasts and the car scene all over the world awesome. It makes it what it is. So it's really cool that we have the different styles of builds and things out there to look at and compare to and get ideas from and gather inspiration from. So that's why I'm putting this stuff out there. I'm hoping to, even if just inspiring one of you to do something is, the right way with some attention to detail is my goal. And if I've done that, that's awesome. That was what my goal was with all this. So I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for the next videos. Again, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos. You can also follow us on Instagram at @TurboLexus and @_garage_project_. And hit us up on email as well if you have any questions. It's garageprojectmotorsports@gmail.com. I will have all of those links in the description. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video series so far. The next and final installment of the Monsterservice video series will be hopefully the final installation after everything has been painted. So it may be a little bit before I get the next video done and out to you guys. It's just going to depend on how soon I can get everything painted and get it all installed and ready to go. So be on the lookout for that. We'll see you on the next video.